Alright, so we're gonna read a little fairy tale from the Rwby series. And the story that I'm gonna be introducing to you guys is the story of the seasons. So if you've watched Rwby, you may enjoy this. Deep in the forest of Remnant, beside a great and powerful river, there lived an old wizard. Blessed with magic but cursed with a long, lonely life, the wizard closed himself to everyone and everything in the world. So cold was his heart that the lands around him were covered in snow. The trees were bare, and animals and creatures of grim alike avoided him. For centuries no one disturbed his peace, if you can call it that, until he became more hermit than wizard. Then, one day, an unlikely visitor appeared outside his window. It was a young maiden, dressed in blue and white, sitting at the base of a tree. He didn't know where she had come from, and he assumed she was frozen. But when he called out to her from his window, she opened her eyes. "You there! Are you all right?" he asked. His voice cracked from age and disuse. "I am fine, thank you for asking." She closed her eyes again. "What are you doing here in the middle of nowhere?" he asked. "This is not nowhere. Since we are both here, I am doing the same as you, pausing to take a rest before resuming a long journey." The old wizard frowned. Finally he opened his door and beckoned her inside. "Well, you should come inside before you freeze to death." She rose and entered the hermit's home, which was not much warmer inside than outside, but she still thanked him. "Who are you?" he asked. "Where did you come from?" "My name is Winter, and where we came from is not as important as where we are going." The wizard could not remember the last time he had eaten, but he prepared a fire and cooked a simple meal for his unexpected guests, realizing that he too was hungry. They sipped plain soup from wooden bowls in silence, and when they were done he asked her, "Do you know me? What do you know of my journey?" "I do not know you, sir, but life is a journey for all of us, with a beginning, a middle, and an end." "You seem quite wise for your years," he said. "I have always been perceptive. I find that meditation helps clear the mind and improves focus when I lose my way. May I show you?" The hermit nodded. Together they sat on the floor, and Winter guided him in mental discipline. They meditated together every day, and at the end of several months the old man had achieved the serenity and clarity of purpose that had eluded him for hundreds of years. His friendship with Winter ended his self-imposed solitude and warmed his heart. In turn, the frozen forest began to thaw around him. One day, the hermit was astounded to hear a beautiful voice singing outside his house. He looked out his window and saw another young maiden, dressed in green, kneeling on the ground and digging in the dirt with her hands. She took seeds from a pouch tied around her slim waist and pushed them into the soft earth. "Who is there?" he called. "What are you doing?" Winter opened the door. "Oh, my sister is here." The two women hugged while the old wizard watched in confusion. "I am Spring," the newcomer said in a lyrical voice. "I am resting on a long journey. I find it's important to stop and smell the roses now and then, don't you?" A rose bush sprouted from her feet and blossomed at once with beautiful red roses. "How did you do that?" the wizard asked. "I have always been good at making things grow," Spring said. You say you are resting, but planting is hard work, he said. I find it relaxing, and hard work can be its own reward. Let me show you. The hermit hesitated, but then he relented. Together they planted a garden all around his house, and every day they tended it. They gathered the fruits and vegetables that grew at an extraordinary rate, and their meals greatly improved due to the fresh food and the lively company. Gradually, life returned to the tired hermit and the forest, which flourished and became green and lush. One day, the hermit heard laughter from outside. Before he had even rushed to the window, winter and spring said in harmony, "Our sister!" They opened the door and ran outside, and soon the hermit heard the three of them laughing together. The third young maiden was clad in purple. "Welcome," the hermit called from his window. "Please tell me your name." "My name is Summer," she said. "I am resting on a long journey." "Of course," thought the wizard. Aloud he said, "Why were you laughing? What's so funny?" The woman looked at him with a bright smile on her face. "Me? Me?" he said incredulously. "I'll have you know, I am a skilled wizard. No one has ever laughed at me in my life." "Perhaps not to your face," she replied, "or perhaps because no one was here to see the folly in a great man who could do so much yet does nothing." The hermit felt a surge of anger, but his training with Winter had shown him how to recognize the truth in things. In his heart, he knew that Summer was right. "Your ridicule is justified," he had admitted. Summer changed the subject. "It seems silly to be cooped up inside such a beautiful warm day," she said. "Why limit yourself to observing the world through a small window when you can walk through that door and be a part of it?" Joyfully, Summer twirled around. Now that you mention it, the wizard did find that his house had grown stuffy. He stepped outside and took a deep breath. The fresh air and the warmth of the sun filled him with such energy and life that he felt rejuvenated. It was so pleasant outdoors that he had no desire to withdraw inside his home, his self-imposed prison for all these years. For the next several months, the wizard and the three maidens spent every waking moment outside and slept under the stars. It had been many lifetimes since he had felt such a strong connection to other people and the world. One day, as they settled down to an outdoor feast on a balmy evening, the wizard felt a sudden chill. He noticed a delicate young woman standing under an apple tree. He watched with bemusement as Winter, Spring, and Summer ran toward her, joining hands and dancing around the tree. Her features were similar to those of her sisters, but she was wearing orange. The wizard stayed by the table until the women beckoned him to join them. Before he could ask, the new arrival introduced herself. "My name is Fall. I am resting on a long journey. Who are you?" "Me?" the wizard said. "I am but an old hermit. Hermits do not invite people into their home or share their food," Fall pointed out. "Hermits don't celebrate all summer long." "That is a fair point. However, I have lived in these woods alone for a long time, with no one to love and nothing to my name. Your sisters have brought me new life." Fall opened her arms wide. "But, sir, do you not see? You have so much already." As the four maidens and the wizard enjoyed a meal together, he realized that Fall was right. Somehow, the sisters had restored to him all that he had lost, and given him much more than he ever could have dreamt of. They spent several more months in one another's company, but the Wizard knew that their time together was running out. The days grew shorter and cooler until one day the maidens announced that it was time for them to continue their journeys. Journeys? Are you not traveling together? The Wizard asked. He didn't dare voice the hope he had hidden in his heart that they would decide to stay with him, or invite him to join them as they ventured out into the world. Our paths lead us in different directions, Winter said, to the four corners of Remnant, but we are grateful to you for providing us with a much-needed break and hospitality. Why me? He asked. Why did the four of you come here and open my eyes to share with me your gifts? What makes me so special? The sisters looked at one another, perplexed. Finally, Fall spoke. We did not choose you in particular. We wander everywhere and do what we can for everyone, because we are able. The old wizard was at a loss. Never in his many years had he come across such kindness. He decided that he had to repay them with a gift of his own. I have incredible magic, and if you will allow me, I would like to share a portion of it with each of you, he said. That is too generous, Summer said. We cannot take your magic. As you once pointed out, I have not been doing much with it. If you accept my gift, the four of you, who already do so much, can accomplish even more good in the world. The sisters discussed it quietly among themselves before they ultimately accepted the wizard's offer. He summoned as much of his magic as he could and bestowed it upon four maidens. I grant you magic of your own, mastery over the elements, the very powers of nature. May you use it to aid others just as you have aided me. The wizard was exhausted, but he felt lighter and more optimistic about the future than he had in a long time. With the four maidens sharing his magic, knowing they would be out there working for the good of all, he no longer felt so alone. Thank you, they said. We will do our best. Now what will you do? The wizard looked back at his house. My rest is over. It is time for me to resume my journey and work as well. One by one, the sisters left. Before they did, they made one final promise, to return each and every year to visit their dear friend.